to the SCS webinar on brownfield construction, a challenge. May I now introduce you to the speaker of the day, Vivek Bhushan Sood, Chief General Manager, Civil, Indian Railway Stations Development. An alumnus of NIT Hamirpur, VB Sood passed his BTech in Civil Engineering in 1993 and joined Indian Railways in 1996. He was a professor in Indian Railways Institute of Civil Engineering, Pune, was also director at RDSO Lucknow, where he further honed his skills in bridge design and bridge management. VV Sood is a keen follower of the adage that only constant in life is change, and was instrumental in introducing new technologies like high-strength friction grip bolts, automatic shear studs, long-welded rails, and many more in Indian Railways. He has authored 2 books, and one is a Railway Curves, and the other is a Steel Girder Fabrication for Railways. He has also authored over 30 technical papers, which have been published in various Indian foreign journals. Now, may I introduce you to the moderator of the day, Professor Charanjit Shah, founder principal, Creative Group. As a founding principal architect of Creative Group, he has spearheaded some landmark sustainable projects in India, including Chennai Airport, Raipur Airport, Goa Airport, Vadodara Airport, and Times Square Mall, Raipur, etc. Led by Professor Shah, Creative Group has also designed the multimodal hubs for Ahmedabad Gandhinagar Metro, Lucknow Railway, Kota Railway, master plan for the city of Jamshedpur, and the iconic terminal building of Kartarpur Corridor project, which was inaugurated by Shri Narendra Modi in November 2019. Besides practicing as an architect, urban planner, and an infrastructure expert, he's also a renowned author, academician, and educationist. He's also the chairperson of the Smart Habitat Foundation, whose role is to promote architectural knowledge among practitioners, academicians, and bridge the gap between theoretical knowledge and practical experience. Before we begin, and I hand over the proceedings to Mr. Sood, requesting all the attendees to please participate in the poll and do write the name of the speaker whom you'd like to address the question during the Q&A session. Also, do subscribe to our YouTube channel, SCS TV, where we are live now, and you get access to all our future webinars and steel construction updates on the same. Over to you, Mr. Sood. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you, Carol, for the introduction, and thank you very much to MX Business Media for giving this opportunity for me to speak about something that a lot of people are interested in, railways and the station redevelopment. Both the subjects are of great interest to the general public, and the engineers, the architects, the planners, all are looking keenly to this field. Today's topic, of course, is brownfield construction, a challenge. So here the prime focus is on explaining how the steel can help. If the brownfield construction is there, how steel can help. And in this topic, we'll take up a case study. We're already working on Habibganj railway station redevelopment project, and the concourse for that project was launched using a very innovative scheme. So that scheme is what we will cover as a case study to explain the kind of principles which will go in adopting steel for the brownfield construction. So I'll start the presentation, and the structure we have thought of is that we will do 2 parts. First, we'll do the theory about what are the actual challenges in a brownfield construction, how steel can help. Then we'll take up the question and answers which have come after listening to that part of the presentation. Once that is done, then we'll take up the case study for Habibganj, and which will further explain whatever we have discussed, and whatever further questions might come, that will take up towards the end. So I hope so this will cover the topic in completely. So I'll just start my presentation. Okay, so is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This beautiful tree which has come up between these 2 rocks is a metaphor for a brownfield construction. So when you are trying to grow this tree, then if you have already got these rocks, it's really difficult, as you can understand, very difficult to get this tree in between these 2 rocks. So that is a kind of challenge many of the brownfield construction sites pose. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. Okay, so the contrast with this brownfield construction is a greenfield construction where there are no limitations. So you can construct whatever you feel like, and if in the immediate surroundings of our work, if there are no obstructions, so then we call this as a greenfield construction. Now the major challenges, I've categorized these into four major heads. One is you have to safeguard the existing infrastructure. Since it's a brownfield construction, whatever whatever is there has to be safeguarded. And quite often we have got these factories, the railway, and the facility might be running. So we have to see that in the greenfield construction, normally you will have more time, whereas in the brownfield construction, the time availability will be less. Then you have to work in cramped spaces, as we just saw in the metaphoric example. So the space is limited and you have to work within that space. And accidents, if they happen in a greenfield, they are affecting only the project. But if the accidents happen on a brownfield project, then you will have the existing facility also not able to function. So avoiding accidents is even more critical. Accidents are always bad, but to have an accident in a brownfield site is even worse. So I'll just take these challenges one by one. So this is the building, and so some work was going on next to it, and because of this excavation, so the whole building has tilted. You might have seen this in the news. I think it was in Bangalore or some. So this is a challenge: how to safeguard when we plan the work, how we ensure that the existing infrastructure, existing whatever is the building structures, they are not affected. So when we are talking about the tracks, now what we have to do when it's a brownfield construction and the railway is nearby, so you have to leave the space for trains to move. Now the trains are a totally different kind of a vehicle as compared to, typically we see the road vehicles, and we are more tuned to a road vehicle, and as we have the habit of crossing the road, so we just judge how far the vehicle is and when it will stop. So that is that is a part of our conscience, but when we work near railway tracks, how the trains behave is totally different. We'll just cover this in the next slide. Then you have to keep away from the electric equipment. Whatever electric wires are there, those are another important item when we are working near tracks. And the permanent way, this has to be safeguarded. I'll cover these in detail in the subsequent slides. So this, when we are working in railways, this is how we convert the safeguard existing infrastructure to these key elements. And you can see that this train was moving and this dumper was doing some work, probably putting this stone ballast here, and then it has got hit with the train. So this is a common kind of mistake which happens at the work spots, and people are not able to gauge how fast the train is coming, whether it will be able to stop this train, or whether you are even violating the area which is earmarked for the trains. So this is a very challenging thing, and why this is challenging is, look at the scale. If you've got this car and this car, the distance between these, even if they are moving at full speed, maybe 30-40 meters is good enough. Whereas if you have got this train and an obstruction somewhere, then the distance required is something like 800 meters, 1000 meters, even more. If it's a loaded goods train, then it will take even more time. So it is not possible for the driver to see an obstruction and immediately stop. It takes a very long distance for first the driver to notice that something is wrong. And if the fellow applies even the emergency brake, still it is 500, 600 meters is the bare minimum for the lightest train. For heavier trains, it will be even more. So if stopping the train is not possible, then the only feasible option is to keep that area free at all times. So if we have to work in an area where the trains are to move, then you have to take a shutdown or a block that the train should not come while we are working in an area where the trains are supposed to move. One very easy way of avoiding the accidents is to fence the track. So the truck operator or anybody working near the track can actually see the fencing and get an idea that beyond the fencing, all the area is reserved for the trains to move. And then if a warning comes, even if you are, so then you can be doubly sure that if there's a flagman and if the fellow tells that that a train is approaching, then you can once again assure that nothing is obstructing the trains. So this is the sort of fencing that we provide next to the track, and any that the road vehicles and other things can fly next to it, and the dumpers and earth moving equipment all can work on the outside very safely. So this is one important safeguard that should be taken. Next is, of course, you can do signals, and you can see the signal. If it is, these are all permanent signals, and then the driver already knows that there is some work going on, and then look at the distance. If this is my work spot, then it is 1200 meters, 1.2 kilometer away. You have to warn the driver that now you have to control the speed or stop. So that 1.2 kilometers is mandated, and this is when the driver already knows that some work is going on. It is given in writing to the driver that this kind of signal is going to come, and you may have to slow down or stop the train. So these safeguards are also sometimes taken if you are working and there is a requirement to slow the trains. This is how a typical train it's moving on the track. So what is the space that is earmarked for the trains is something like this. So this is the engine, and you see the dimensions of the engine. So beyond the dimensions of the engine, this area is there, which this blue is the area which is meant for the trains. So this is called the maximum moving dimension, and then with some more margin, then you have provided that anything that you are doing should be beyond this hashed line. All this hashed line is to leave the space for other appurtenances. And there will be overhead electric equipment here. This is a platform. So if the platform is there, then you need to leave more space. If there is no platform, this is the space. So so for people, all these people who are getting down from the train, so you cannot have these columns right next to the train. So you can see this area is meant for the people on the platforms. On the other side, nothing is required. So this sort of diagrams are given in a book called Indian Railway Schedule of Dimension, and similar schedule of dimensions are issued for metros, for DFC and high speeds. All the different kind of railway system will have their own schedules of dimensions. So these schedule of dimensions are to be respected at all times, or you have to take a safeguard to save the trains and accident, and there should be no obstruction to the train. And this fellow is a flagman. He is looking out for the trains. In case the train is coming, so the fellow will whistle and show the flag, so that now the people who are working advertently or inadvertently near the tracks, they or on the track, so they will get warned. They will move away from track. If there is by chance any obstruction, maybe some crowbar or some small equipment which is obstructing the movement path, then those things can be removed immediately. So posting a flagman is another very important thing for the last moment corrective action required. Overhead electric equipment is a very dangerous dangerous thing if you go too near to a live conductor. So we have to be very much careful. So you can see that these kind of works are sometimes required. These are the overhead wires, and these fellows are fixing the cover on platforms, sheeting. So this work has to be done. Then it has to be done carefully, because there is a 25,000 volts the electric current which is there, and the differential with the earth is too high, and it can lead to fires, and the consequences are disastrous for the people, for the equipment which comes in contact with the 25,000 volts. And from any charged conductor, the minimum safe distance is 2 meters. So you have to keep 2 meters away from any equipment, any conductor, so that there is no accident because of the electric current. And all our arrangements are properly earthed. You can see that this is one kind of bond, this is another kind of bond. So a complete track is earthed to avoid this situation of the short circuit between the OHE and the ground. So this has to be taken care of even when you are doing the work next to the track. So let us say this is a rail, another rail, because once the length of the conductor becomes more, the induction also is more. So this continuity, you can see this continuity has been provided, and along with this continuity, some sort of earthing has to be provided, so that the induced current also, sometimes that also goes on the higher side, and that might lead to minor shocks, if not a major accident. But minor shocks can occur because of this, which can lead to its own accidents. Then there are small things. So these are the wooden handled umbrella that we used to use so that the induction doesn't come in our hand when we are working near the tracks. The tape that we are using should be insulated so that by chance if the rail is not properly earthed, then the charge should not come in our hands. So small precautions which are there near overhead equipment, and any conductor is to be taken as live unless proven otherwise. It has to be assured that the conductor is dead or properly earthed before we get anywhere near that or start working on it. So elementary precautions and then some special precautions for the railway area. So these we have to take. Now the track, this is called what is the permanent way. So we have got the rails here, sleepers, ballast, then blanketing, and then subgrade, and then the natural ground. So when we are doing any work, let us say this work is going on and we are doing the excavation, we have to be very careful because the trains put their load on this whole arrangement. And if we just disturb this portion, then we will have some sort of slips, and that might create unsafe conditions for the trains, which is not a good idea. And we need to be very careful with this and provide the shoring or the protective equipment to save the slopes so that the trains can move safely. And be very careful when the water comes in. Everybody understands that when the water comes in, the bearing capacity of soil goes down drastically. So in the monsoon or wherever we anticipate underground water or any surface water to come in. So that we have to be very careful in those circumstances and leave extra margins of safety or extra precautions. So this is actually my own site. So we had minor problems because of unscheduled rains. So these things happen, and we have to take extra precautions when water is there. So summarize once again, because of safety, you cannot be more sure. So just to remind that whenever we are working, respect the schedule of dimension, respect the space where the trains are moving, and barricade the tracks to be extra sure. Take suitable traffic shutdowns if required. Earthing and insulation you have to take care. If you want to work in the overhead electric area, you take what is called a permit to work. So take proper approvals, earth the electric equipment before you start the work. And when you excavate, take care that the track is properly supported. When water comes, you have to be extra cautious. So this is just a summary of that. The second major challenge when we work in the brownfield construction in railways is that the time is always a constraint, because the tracks are busy, and in this busy time, if you want to do anything which affects the train movement, then you have to stop the trains. If you stop the trains, then the time naturally will be limited, because that much time it's not free. Free time is not available. So typically the working time which will be allowed is up to 3 hours is easy. You can go 6 hours, 10 hours, but then it becomes more and more difficult to arrange that. And if you want multiple tracks, let us say there are 2 tracks and you want to shut down both the tracks, now no train can move. So that will be even more difficult. If you have got 4 tracks and you want to shut down all 4 tracks, now it is even more difficult. So the working time and the space for working is limited, and we have to work within these limitations. So what that does is that work is to be planned in such a manner that it is manageable in that 2 or 3 or 5 hours, whatever we have got. And the options, we don't have the luxury of using any scheme that we have got. And this is the most important, that immediately after those 3 hours or 5 hours or 10 hours, whatever we have got, then the track has to be fit and the traffic should move safely at the end of that. Now, this is the most important item, because you can do the work and leave the site and come again next day. But that luxury is not available, because you have to leave the whole site well prepared for the trains to come immediately after the block is over. So this is the major challenge which dictates most of the schemes that we make. So we need innovation, and what we need is a simple and an easy scheme. So it has to be simple and easy, so that the mistakes are not there, so that you don't overrun the time, you don't have the other complications which happen if you don't make simple and easy schemes. Use more and more pre-assembled units, so that the complete assembly goes and gets erected in one go, and there is no need to do extended blocks. and you have to take extra precautions. There should be a plan B, there should be a plan C, in addition to a very robust plan A. So this is again a very important care to be taken. People have to be skilled, people have to be experienced, working near the trains, working with the time limitations. That discipline has to be there in the people. And this pool working is linked to the first item. It has to be a simple and easy scheme so that it does not have too much complications. The people who are working have to be cool, because the less time that you have got will build the pressure. Because in this 3 hours, maybe first 2 hours you can be a bit okay, that okay, abhi to time hai. But the last hour will be that okay, now you have to wrap up, and there are maybe 100 activities going on simultaneously. So in this pressure, and when the person who is looking after the scheme starts creating this jaldi karo, this can create mistakes which can lead to either accident, or it can create such a situation that now you're not able to close the site and hand over for the train operation. So this school working is very important, and you have to start with this in mind and do the simple easy scheme, then launching pre-assembled units and all the different things that are being said. So these innovations have to be to make sure that the person who is at the site is not hassled by having to look at maybe 1,000 things. As few things, if there are few things, then the person can look at that and be confident that okay, I'm doing fine, and there is no need to panic. So this is the basic requirement when we are working near the railway track in the brownfield construction. So this is what is required. Now, cramped spaces, you understand, very difficult to grow this kind of a tree in a very cramped space. And similarly, if you're working in cramped spaces, not only the space is less, it also is shared. So if you're working above the railway track, below the railway track, now that space is required for the trains also. And it is not like that you are having a free run. And the passing trains are to be kept in mind, even if it is next to your site, even if you are not really above the track, below the track, or just exactly by the side of track. Even if you are 5 meters away or 10 meters away, still you have to take care that nothing should come on the onto the track. So the space cramp is also creating its own complications. So you can see that this is one girder being launched, and look at this derrick. So you have got this obstruction on one side and track on the other side. So the margin which is available is maybe half a meter, in which you have to design everything, provide, and it should not topple, it should not fall onto the track. So a lot of limitations are posed by the site. So you have to work in this space, and you can see that all this arrangement is it creates so many complications when you are working in this kind of spaces. So this creates its own challenges, which we have to keep in mind when we design the scheme. So one important item is that whatever loads you are putting on the ground outside the track also can affect the tracks. So proper foundation and proper calculations have to be done, so that the load from the temporary arrangement, from our girders, from our arrangement that we have put outside the track does not affect the track. Another very important thing is these utilities: electric lines, sewer lines, signal lines, telecom. In fact, the signals and telecom cables are the most important. Electric and sewer lines are found everywhere, but if you cut the signal line, then the trains cannot run. So if the trains cannot run, even the telecom cables, so all the complete railway system runs on these signals and the telecommunication, the people talking to each other. So the whole system works on this. If you cut the utility, and then you may have maybe for next 10 hours the trains are not able to move properly. So it is those kind of repercussions, and very severe repercussions are there, and especially the signaling cables and also the telecom cables. So these are very important. And of course, electric cables are important for the safety of people who are working. So even if you are away from track, you still have to take a lot of care. And this is the actual site. So this is Habibganj, in fact. And before starting the work, we excavated, and in fact, the developer actually by mistake cut one cable. Then by mistake he cut another cable. So that second one was really unfortunate, because it was the 40 mm bore being made for the geotech investigation, and by chance it punctured one of the signaling cables. So thereafter it was decided that we have to first see how many cables are there. The entire space was dug up for 1 meter, and we found out all something like 200 to 250 cables. So different locations cables had gone. So once that is exposed, all the cables were shifted, and thereafter in the last 2 years there is no cable cut, no need for any affecting the railway operations. So Another important element is you may in theory design something, but when the trains are moving and the vibrations are coming from the trains. So if the elements are not secured properly, then these can be dislodged. So this is another thing that you had decided or you had calculated that my arrangement is all away from the track, but it can move towards the track due to the vibrations. Loose cables can get entangled. If something is dangling and the train comes and gets entangled, since the whole arrangement can fall onto the track. Debris can fall on the trains. Anybody working and some bar, crowbar, or some reinforcement bar can actually fall onto the trains. So you have to provide safety nets and precautions that these things don't happen. And of course, lookout that we have already seen. So for safety of the personnel and the job, always keep a lookout on the trains. So even if the work is stopped, let us say at night, still you should have a person even at night looking at if the passing trains have not affected the arrangement that we have provided. So even if you are away from track, still you have to take care that, okay, that's not the end of the world that, okay, I'm within 5 meters or 7 meters. It means that I am safe. Maybe 20 meters, then you are totally safe. And within 5 meters, you are actually on the track. So between 5 and 20, still you have to take care of these kind of things. So work is going on, and you can see the safety net which has been provided. So you have to safeguard the trains. Similarly, another bridge being constructed. So the safeguards have been taken that nothing should fall onto the tracks. What are the solutions? So I come to the business end of this. Exactly now, what is to be done? So you see that this girder is being launched, and there is a launching arrangement here. There are these are called cribs. So the crib support has been provided, and this girder is being pulled over the railway tracks. In this case, they have obstructed this track. So it means that the work is going on under traffic block. And there are no electric wire in this case, so no need for electric shutdown, but traffic, yes, the traffic has been shut down. You see another scheme. In this case, we have to excavate the earth and just below the tracks. So this is temporarily supported using cribs, and these are wooden sleepers, and this is the rail. And after that, you can see that the work is done. This is the subway work going on, and you can see that this girder, this is the same girder. So this girder has been inserted in the track so that you can work safely. You excavate here, and the trains are not affected because the bridge. This is called a temporary bridge. So a temporary bridge has been provided to transfer the load away from the area that we are disturbing. So different kind of solutions are available when we are working near the tracks. And if you see the nature of the solutions that we have just discussed, all of these are steel. Majority, you can see this once again. So you can see the steel being used here, steel being used here. You can see steel being used here. You can see the steel being used here. So a lot of steel is required when we are working in brownfield construction near the tracks. And steel is a very good material because it is lightweight, and any people can handle it, or small equipment can handle, as compared to concrete maybe, which is heavier for the same loads. Steel can be handled easily because the handling the scheme is because it can take tension as well as compression, so it is much more amenable to be lifted from a variety of places rather than only a few nominated places, as in the case of concrete. So easy and safe schemes can be made because you can work in various different ways. Field connections are easy. Pieces, if we are having different pieces, these can be easily assembled, and this can be done quickly using bolts. And steel can be reused. So for temporary arrangement, it's great that you can use the same temporary arrangement for multiple times. Of course, accidents we have to avoid. So we cannot, no, this is not a part of the scheme. So this is something beyond the scheme. So earlier was safety that we are talking about was essentially about the scheme, how you are planning your work. This of course is unforeseen. So these also have to be prevented, and we have to be extra cautious when we are near the track. And you can see that this crane has fallen onto the OHE. The OHE is live. It can be very dangerous for people who are working here, in addition to being dangerous for the trains and affecting the train operations. In this case, you can see these girders were launched, and one of the girder toppled because of the imbalance, and this girder affected this girder, and the last girder is on the ground. And you can see the OHE, the complete OHE has snapped, and this obstructed all these 5, 6, 7 lines which are there. Some major accident. So we have to be very careful while we are designing our scheme, that it has to be safe and it has to be we have to be ready for these kind of eventualities while making the schemes. Okay, so once again, talking a bit about schemes once again. So plan well, keep the schemes simple, do mock-ups, do rehearsals, and the team leaders, all the people who have to lead the different teams have to visualize every step, and they have to make plan A, plan B, plan C, so that things, even if the situation slightly changes, then how to tackle that. And in fact, these plan B, plan C should be visualized so that you can take precautions while making the plan A, so that the plan B is not required. Now design well. This is very important. Temporary arrangements are temporary arrangements. These are assembled at site. So you have to keep a lot of margin of safety, even to provide for some elementary mistakes which happen under time pressure, or maybe the people are not that skilled. So you have to do a well-designed scheme. It has to be simple. Then you have to take care that people might not even tighten the bolt completely. And it may not be possible because you have to do the work in 2 hours, 3 hours. So it may not be always possible to check all the bolts by another person. So you have to do a well-designed scheme. Even small mistakes, it should be tolerant. Communicate well. So complete team, right from the leaders to the fitters to the people who are actually going to lift the loads. Everybody should discuss. They should be explained what the scheme is. Take the feedback about the different scenarios which might come. Everybody must know the rules and communication protocol. Who will be giving instructions? Everybody cannot be giving instructions. So those communication protocols should be well laid and well rehearsed, so that people know that, okay, this is the person who will tell what is to be done. Even if things are wrong, everybody speaking simultaneously means nobody will be able to hear anything. And execute well. So this also is very important, that even if the scheme is good, still if you panic and when you forget the basics and you start making mistakes. So keep an eye on the coordination, whether the different teams are working together or there are some personal or interpersonal or intergroup problems are there. And visualization, whatever you have visualized in the first stage, it should be continuously validated whether the things are going in the same direction or you are seeing some unusual tilt, some vibration, some other thing that you feel, okay, this is not how it was visualized. And keep a lookout for trains. It cannot be overemphasized. Mistakes and miscommunications do happen even with the train dispatchers and the station masters. So keep a lookout, even if you have taken a block or you have taken a shutdown or you have taken you know that the train will not come. The train might still be come because of some mistakes. So just keep a lookout, keep protecting the track. Okay, so this is where I stop, and this is about how the brownfield construction should be planned when we are working near the railway tracks. Do we have questions?
Yes, Mr. Sood, we have some questions. Now I'll request our moderator, Mr. Charanjit Shah, to have a discussion on the first part of the presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much. And indeed, it's my privilege. Then I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
So thank you indeed. Thank you. I would say that it's my very greatest opportunity to be here with all of you together. And my friend Amneet Singh ji, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And Vivek Sood ji, I really adore you and admire you, the type of passion which you have. And it's always, I would say that today is the time when the things are changing, the urbanization growth is there, the city is layering, the infrastructure is being layering, and in all the major infrastructure projects, particularly on the brownfield projects, we find these issues which are because probably like you have very rightly said, like safeguarding, time management, shape constraint, off the site, on the site, many issues are there. But looking into that, railway has the maximum holding, I suppose, government holding here, and we fall into that sort of a responsible position today, that how the railways can really, and all the railway stations are not the epicenters, they fall into the city itself, how the growth can take place and how the cityscape can work. And probably, as you have rightly said, that there are insertions in terms of handling large span structures. Maybe it is bridges, tunnels, or even talking that railways are going to be remodeled as more than even airports. So the large concourses and other things are there, and steel is predominantly very, very a strong material. The question which is coming from the audience as well is that how do you see that we have the technology, we have everything put together. If suppose in London, we can talk about the Red Channel from London to Paris, the tunnel could be made, and we talk about many more things put together. How the technology can really play a role in creating larger infrastructure, particularly in the railways, where we have so much of land, including the mixed-use development, other things are coming forward, and you have very ambitious program from your railways. And can you just highlight on that? And then I will take a question, because somebody has even asked, Mr. Sandeep has asked, where is the SOD available for high-speed rail, and can you give the link for that? So over to you, Sudha.
Yeah. Yes, the land holding of Indian Railways is it is one of the biggest landholders, as you said, in India, and most of the land is right in the center of the city. So yes, the railway stations are important. Already railway stations are important. They are a well-known address. Everybody knows where the railway station is, and people have to travel to railway station for different needs. And in the next part of the presentation, we are going to cover the some outline of how the railway station development program is shaping up. And in addition to that, then we'll see the case study of Habibganj, what exactly has been done. And I'll touch upon various features, as you have said, Mr. Shah, as you have said about the concourses, about the roofs. And yes, the steel is a very, very important part of this complete redevelopment projects. Now, the second question is about schedule of dimension for high speed, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it is the National High Speed Rail Corporation, because that is the first high speed which is going to come in India. So I guess it is available on their website if it is not, if it is already finalized. But since it is under construction, it is possible that it is still it is still being evolved. So maybe we should visit their website and find out where the SOD, exactly the moving dimensions that they are going to follow.
So another question which has been asked by the the people who are attending is what is the type of, because most of the things in the railways are exposed, and when you see the climatical conditions from hot and dry climate to wet climate to very coastal climate, and how the prevention of corrosion is one thing, and other is prevention of fire. So what are the various norms which we generally take for prevention of fire and corrosion, because coastal areas, the steel really gets corroded very fast. So that is one question which has been asked people.
This is slightly away from today's topic. So we are talking about construction, and especially in the brownfield situation. But still, whenever we talk about steel, we always have this question. And the answer is always standard, that if you do a good coating, you can protect the steel. People have this misconception that concrete does not require maintenance. Concrete also requires maintenance. And when the concrete starts giving trouble, then the kind of repairs, the kind of interventions required are much more difficult as compared to interventions required to restore a steel member to its own original load carrying capacity. Fire, yes, these are major concerns, but maybe in some other lecture people can cover various approaches that can be followed for, there are paints, there are coverings, and there are various techniques. So I'll not like to go into that because that is not today's topic.
Sir, first of all, I must even thank my one of the 5 attendees who were the first one, Vikas Apte, Professor Malita Saxena, Sanjay Sarkar, and Anil Kumar. They are the first people who really linked in with us, and all very learned people. One of the very exciting thing is that I being working with you for quite some time now, and we are working on more than 12 railway stations, and like intermodality, last mile connectivity, and all things put together, and how the metro insertion, other things, all are practically coming forth. And now what is happening is railways are becoming like intermodal hubs and also like mini district centers. So that probably the construction which we are now talking about is that maybe like Nagpur, railway station and other large projects where we see that the mini district centers are being created there, and they are becoming the epicenter. So probably steel, of course, is one of the very, very important material. And what is your intake on steel, like composite structures? What is the type of technology which would be used in the coming future, wherein we can make it faster, we can make it off the side, like modulation, like prefab, other things put together, and how we can really use the cities, is the cityscape or the skyscape or the space on top as most for the development of the most of our cities, because cities are already choking.
Yeah, so steel is very, very important, and stations are very, very important. Steel is a very good tool that we are going to utilize extensively, and I'll show in the next part of the presentation how it has been used for different elements at the 2 stations that we have already gone ahead and done substantial amount of work. So that I'll cover in detail, along with how we are developing this as a city center. So, so there are a few questions that I was just looking at about one was the standard operating procedure that we have to follow when the work is being done in a brownfield area in the trains. So this, of course, there are no rules for this. You have to see what is the situation, what is the kind of challenge you are having, and what are the kind of train traffic which is expected. Sometimes there are only goods trains, sometimes there are passenger trains, sometimes there are high-speed trains. If the Rajdhani is moving, then you have to have a different kind of sensitivity as well as the challenge that you are having, and then the kind of space you are having, kind of soil conditions you are having. So I don't think we can lay down an SOP except in the generic terms which you have already covered in the presentation. So it is at the generic level.
Sir, another question which has come out more technical is that people, because people got very excited on too many things, like can you elaborate upon rail extension and contraction? One is this, and other is what is the reason that Indian Railways has not yet addressed the gap issue between the train floor and the platform, and how can the accidents be avoided which happen every day? What is the solution, and how soon can we see this addressed? This is one thing. Another, he said that how do you analyze the project's cost for the general brownfield projects?
Well, very good questions. This gap between the train and the platform is technically very challenging, and it requires system level interventions, which are always a problem for an old organization like Indian Railways. We have variety of rolling stock and variety of different scenarios where these are to be used. So yes, this is one challenge that Indian Railway is considering, and a lot of thought has been given. Let us see when a solution comes up which will address our requirements, our unique requirements, I would say. But the safety record of Indian Railways has been always exemplary, looking at the kind of stage of development where we are. And as you might already be aware that it is now 15 months that there is no casualty on the railway system because of the accident. So for our country, it's a very proud kind of achievement, especially since we still are not considered a developed country. So still we are having this kind of a record. So it's very good. The other question, one was on the long welded rails, I believe.
Yes.
So in the introduction, it was wrongly mentioned that I introduced the long welded rails on Indian Railways. Actually, I worked on introducing long welded rails on bridges. So that was the LWR actually came in 1970s, and we were actually implementing whatever was laid down. But there were some challenges when the LWR is laid on the bridge. So that part, technical part, I did some work on that, and that is being implemented currently on Indian Railways. So I don't think I'll be able to answer the question about that gap on long welded rail. And the third question, I forgot. What was the third question?
Third was very generic, but I think we can now take through. Is there any consideration for provision of space for equipments and machinery for maintenance purposes of foot-over bridges in railway areas? One, and another is that how do you calculate shutdown time? That is somebody just asked, and then I think we have to run over your second presentation. That I think this is the last question we can take.
Okay. This last question is the most interesting question, and this requires experience. You have to have my kind of hair when you are able to actually guess that this is the kind of time which is adequate, because you learn on the job. Theory is all very good, but more than theory, you need some experience. So you have to learn with the experienced people already working on the railway system, and then you understand how that fellow is managing, and then try to put in your ideas and then innovate. So it is always yes, you can learn about the basics, which is very important. You learn the basics, but then you implement, and whatever you feel is very important may not be that important. And because when you read, you don't really realize. When you do, you know that okay, this works, this doesn't work. And so it will take some amount of experience before you can accurately calculate the timings, and more important is innovate. Because if it's already been done in a particular manner, that can always be replicated by some practice. But if you want to do something new, you need a lot of experience. And the other question is about the inspection system for the foot over bridges. Yes, we do need modern methods of doing inspections. So currently, the inspection systems are a bit more on the visual inspections and elementary testing we are doing. So yes, we are interested, or Indian Railway already keeps on lookout on the kind of equipment, the kind of technologies which will make the life of the maintenance engineers easy. So yes, this is a very important thing. Currently, we don't have much, really very good arrangements for this, but we need those arrangements.